Welcome back. I'm Amy Sweezy, Tesol 2022. My special guest now is Heidi Faust. And Heidi is a teacher educator, does some consulting with Tesol. And I really want to talk to you about this grant. You were recently in Uzbekistan for a Tesol grant. So tell me a little bit about that.
So Tesol is a sub-grantee of American Councils along with George Mason University. And we're part of the English-speaking nation secondary teacher training program of Uzbekistan that partners with the Ministry of Public Education and is funded by the U.S. Embassy Public Affairs section in Tashkent. And our goal is to bring modern teaching methodologies to Uzbekistan teachers and to also help them in their language enhancement as English teachers. And so we created a cascading training program that would build their foundational knowledge around communicative language teaching and best practices for creating learner-centered teaching classrooms. And the cascading training will include around 100 or 90 core trainers, and then 1,000 regional peer mentors who then will mentor and cascade that training to 15,000 teachers across Uzbekistan from around 7 regions of the country. And so the program is designed to really reach the regions that are most in need of support for language teaching. Some of the teachers work in environments where it's hard to access an English-speaking environment. And so through these programs and the courses that we've offered and the training, we've been able to help create an English-speaking environment through our professional development. And we also had 5 different coaches from Tesol on the ground working with teachers, observing them in the practicums from the Tesol Course Certificate program to give them feedback on how to do that in their class. So the grant's been running for 3 years, and we've offered Tesol Course Certificate. We've done some training of trainers with them on the Tesol 6 principles, and we've also had the coaches there supporting the practicum and their cascading training, coaching them in how to be trainers and how to support them. And then the program will culminate with a Tesol regional conference in Tashkent City in June.
Okay.
So,
and why this location?
It's central to all the regions and also has the amenities needed to host a conference that size.
Why was the grant in Uzbekistan?
Oh, so the grant is supported by the embassy, U.S. Embassy in Uzbekistan.
Okay.
And so their goal is really to, I think their goal is to support the Ministry of Education in Uzbekistan. It's important to their diplomacy in the region in Central Asia. And so they also have a good relationship with the Ministry of Education there and want to support this initiative.
Okay.
So.
What are some of the, you talked a lot about the grant, but what are some of the goals of it? What's some of the progress that you've made so far?
So the goals of the grant are, again, to really enhance the language proficiency of the teachers in the classrooms, and to help them to be more communicative in their interaction with students and to support students in using English more authentically. So not just students who can read or say things that they remember, but students who can learn in English or students who can communicate with others around the world. Tourism is opening in Uzbekistan. It's really important to the economy, but also just relationships internationally. And English is a language that can be very useful. So one of the goals is to raise English. Certainly, the other goal is to support best practices in English teaching, and also to create relationships between the United States and Uzbekistan.
Okay, and you said this was 3 years in the run. So, and what's the end?
September 2022.
Okay.
So we're almost finished. The first year we lost a little time with the pandemic, and so most of our work was 2021. We ran 13 sections of the Tesol Course Certificate program. We ran 2 separate weeks of our training of trainers, and the coaches have been on the ground. They'll be on the ground for about anywhere from 3 to 9 months.
Wow.
So.
Okay. Now you're also working on a grant in India,
yes,
right, with 3 different state departments of education. Tell me a little bit about that project.
Sure. So we were awarded a blended Tesol Course Certificate grant program from the U.S. Embassy in Delhi, and we're working through the Relo office and the U.S. Embassy there And this is the third program that we've done with them for mentors of the Delhi government. And so we've worked primarily with the Delhi government in these three sections with mentor teachers. So they have taken our TESOL course certificate, and then they've mentored the mentors, and those mentors have taught these best practices to teachers. So they've reached about 10,000 teachers in that process of mentoring in faculty meetings, demonstrating best practices, and teaching. So this new grant that we're just working on now is to try to replicate that program in 3 different states in India. So we'll also be working in Karnataka, in Telangana, and in West Bengal. And so those teachers started the program in January, or February, I guess. And they've been taking our online class, Foundations of TESOL, to get some theoretical background. Because in India, most English teachers have a bachelor's degree in secondary ed or elementary ed, and then they study literature. So they teach English through literature, and then people may be learning English the way that Shakespeare uses it, or the way the creative poets use it, so it can be very flowery and very beautiful, but not necessarily
to use day to day.
Yeah, not as communicative as would be helpful in an international context. So the goal is to support them in developing communicative language teaching skills so that they can help students develop English for international use. And also because it's really important to have a relationship locally between the embassy and the states in India. India is huge. So they started with Delhi to focus. So they also have a fabulous Minister of Education there, Deputy Chief Minister, Shri Sisodia, who's very invested in working, in changing the school system and working with students and working with parents and really giving them what they need. And we've seen the data from that program where the public schools are now outperforming the private schools, nice. Which is very unusual in that context. So we're hoping to replicate something like that in this new group, and we've added 3 new states. It's been very interesting because we're bumping up against starting over, and things were running very smoothly there, but now we're in a new region where the language skills are not as fluid. English is a first language for most people in Delhi, but not always in other states. And so also the technology is very different, and so we can't assume teachers can just hop on an online course and take it. There's a lot of supports that we need to put in place. And so we've actually brought on some of the mentors from Delhi to work with the teachers from Karnataka to help them get acclimated to online learning and serve as a resource and mentee to them, and so that they can then mentor other teachers. So it's been really fascinating working with fabulous teachers. They're really hardworking, dedicated. In Uzbekistan, teachers work 6 days a week, and then they do other jobs. And in India, they're also, these are classroom teachers we're working with, who on top of it will be mentoring others. And we understand during COVID, they were also kind of in the first line with first responders. They were helping, the nurses and doctors. They were distributing food and masks, and all on top of teaching and taking the course certificate. And the teachers in that program had a 98% success rate.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're so proud of them and all their hard work. And we've had fabulous support on the ground. And so it's also really great to have these relationships, because TESOL can't do this in isolation. Like, we need these partnerships, and it's been a great joy to work with, certainly grateful to State Department for their support and their vision in these programs, but then also to have local school districts and departments of education to work with, who can mobilize these things on the ground. So,
wow, such good work.
It's
so
been
much
really
work.
fun and exciting, and I'm grateful to TESOL for the opportunity as well.
And so much still ahead,
Yeah,
still to come.
Absolutely.
Very exciting. All right, Heidi Faust, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing with us about all of these fantastic grants that are happening around the world.
Thank you for having me.